United stand Zlatan Ibrahimovic to start for Manchester United against Manchester City in the biggest game of both club season, the Premier League seasons, probably the biggest game in Europe, absolutely massive. And Zlatan, could he be used in a game like this? Now, the reason this is sort of spreading as a rumour is that we know that Jose Mourinho has more or less alluded to the fact that he's got a secret weapon. He's got a, well, not a secret weapon, but a plan for how he will deal with Manchester City. We saw against Chelsea back in April, a game I went to. I can tell you all about that in a few minutes. I'm joking. That Chelsea were top of the league. Apparently they were going to come to Old Trafford and beat us, and we had a master plan by Mourinho, dominated the game and won 2-0. And I think he will have something in store for many levels, really. If Mourinho gets it right against Manchester City on Sunday and shows the rest of the Premier League what to do, then Mourinho is going to win more than 3 points. He will win the 3 points, but he'll also know that everyone is going to go and do what he's done, and Pep's going to have to find a plan B, which I don't really think he has. Why would you use Zlatan? A lot of people would say no, but United need to discover a way of beating Manchester City and occupying Manchester City without Paul Pogba. Many people are predicting that Manchester City will have 60% of the possession on Sunday, and in 48 hours we'll know the result of that game. But United have got to find a way of doing that. It's where you fit Zlatan in, though, because thinking about this and sort of reading some of the rumours and where it's coming from, I would be very, very surprised if Zlatan did start, because I would start him, though. Let me just clarify why. You think back of Manchester United, you think of Roy Keane and people like that in the past, and of course you want that sort of player there. You want them in the dressing room, you want them on the pitch. And Zlatan doesn't like Pep Guardiola, so he will be motivated as a winner, and he will make the players around him be motivated. The problem is you're not going to drop Lukaku, and where would you play Zlatan? If you played him as a number 10, if it goes wrong, he becomes a passenger in a game where the opposition like lots of the ball. And if Zlatan becomes a passenger and Lukaku becomes a passenger, you're down to 9 men. And I feel that we probably can't fit Zlatan in the team unless you put Lukaku out wide, which for me is stupid. So I don't see how we can get Zlatan and Lukaku in the same team. So this is how I would line up. As promised, the yellow pen will be coming out. Here we go. So this is how I would line up Manchester United against Manchester City. And tactics are going to be very important in this game. And as you can see already, we're the home team, but the way Manchester City are set up, it's going to push us back. It's going to be very hard for us not to get pushed back. Obviously you've got Sterling, you've got Sane and Aguero there as the front three. But then you've got De Bruyne and Silva, who in a midfield three, but they're going to push on to Herrera and Matic and force them that way. What you want is Pogba in there to force them that way. We haven't got that. I've put Fellaini in there because that position for me, De Bruyne and Silva being dealt with by Herrera and Matic, but Fernandinho can cause some problems, and you can't just put Zlatan on him because I think it's a mismatch in relation to speed around the ground. You could do it, but I think it's dangerous to do it. I think I would trust Fellaini. I mean, who else is there? You'd have to go Fellaini and just say be physical with Fernandinho. But Manchester United, obviously we know that Manchester City are going to have a lot of possession. So how do Manchester United count it? Now, a lot of people are saying, Ben17's just said there, I would play 3-5-2, not 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. The 3-5-2 is a problem, because if you play a 3-5-2, you have two in the midfield, and I think they would get bossed. So if you played a 3-5-2, Lingard would come into this position, and Martial would go into that position alongside Lukaku, and this player would disappear and become Lindelof there. So that player goes. They disappear. Lindelof there. Lingard goes into there, and then you've got two up front. And obviously they push on forward, which is fine. It's fine, and we might do it, but the problem is you've then only got Matic and Herrera to deal with De Bruyne and Silva and Fernandinho and Lingard to help out. I think it's too progressive. I think it's too attacking. It's interesting, I was reading Jamie Carragher. I mean, I know he's an ex-Liverpool and some people don't really respect him. I think his opinion's okay. He was saying that United are going to have to sit deep, be patient and attack quickly when they get the ball and take advantage of those opportunities. I disagree with Jamie on that, because this is Manchester United at Old Trafford. The crowd will not allow... If we sit back, it plays into Pep's hands. Eventually, they will grind us down. They'll have the ball in these areas, and eventually, well, we'll be camped in here. They'll find something. There'll be a penalty or something like that, and they will eventually break us down. And then we'll have to go on the front foot anyway. Also, our biggest asset on Sunday is the Old Trafford crowd. If we sit back, the Old Trafford crowd will become quiet, impatient and frustrated, and we will lose that cauldron atmosphere, which is really, really important. If you sit back, you give City a lot of possession. It silences the crowd, and the more possession City have, the more opportunity they have for free kicks, penalties and everything like that. We've got to be progressive, and as I've been talking about all week really, I think the way United are progressive is here and here. And that is why, for me, I would play Lingard on the right, Martial up front, and keep doing Young and Valencia exactly what they're doing. Because Sane and Sterling are a threat. They are a threat. But I think Ashley Young is perfect to deal with Sterling. They're the same, more or less the same height, the same build, the same sort of speed. Ashley Young can certainly deal with him. Valencia against Sane. I'm hoping that Valencia's experience and power will be enough to deal with Sane and push him up that pitch. If we can push them up the pitch, then that isolates Aguero. Your next problem then is De Bruyne and Silva and their quick movement of the ball. I think Herrera can deal with Silva. I think Herrera is probably the best player to deal with Silva. Even if you had Pogba and Fellaini playing well, Herrera on his game is probably the best player to deal with Silva, because Herrera's got the lowest gravity and the quickest movement around the ground in our midfield. Matches against De Bruyne, I think it's intriguing. I think a lot of people will say De Bruyne is going to win that battle, but I just think Matic, if he plays like we know he can play, he's a big game player, he could be really, really important. Fellaini, Fernandinho, if it is Fellaini, I think, again, there's so many battles, I think, in this game that are 50-50. I mean, I've read something, I think it was on the BBC today, saying, can Manchester City finish Manchester United's season? And I'm not going to say that they're going down that angle, but I have read some angles, and they're like, oh, City are going to Old Trafford to finish United and finish United's season. It amazes me that the press haven't switched more and gone more towards United, because I know why they haven't done it, because a lot of them don't like United, and that dislike for United bubbles to the surface. But actually, as I keep saying, from a Premier League perspective and from football in our country, or if you like the Premier League or you support a club from this country, I think it's really important that Manchester United do beat Manchester City, because the title will be done. The title will be done on December the 10th. The title will be done if Manchester City come to win. Now, obviously, 11 points is not over, but the symbolic feature of the fact that they will beat us at our place, I don't think we'd recover from that, and the confidence they would take from it would be really, really good. Lukaku against Otamendi and company, it's a bit of a mismatch because it's 2 against 1, but company does and is reckless. He should have been sent off against Leicester in the first few minutes. He will dive in with a tackle, and I think Lukaku's got to be clever about that. He's got to let company come through the back of him. That's what she said. And he's got to be very, very, astute. He's got to go down. He's got to take the fouls around this. I mean, the reality is, if United can pick up fouls anywhere around here in this area, I don't know what it's a lopsided arse. It's not what I wanted to do. Let's do the script. So if United can pick up free kicks anywhere around here and put the ball into these areas, then that is going to cause Manchester City problems, and Lukaku is the man for that. He's got to, and Martial and Lingard, they've got to be picking up free kicks for United, because that's when we can put people into the box, and that's when we can cause people problems. Some people think Juan Mata might start. I don't know. I'm going to take some of your comments in a minute, but that's how I would line up. 100%, that's how I would line up. And the width is where Manchester United will win and lose this game, not the midfield. I think if you had that midfield three of Matic and Herrera and Fellaini against De Bruyne, Silva and Fernandinho, yes, City could dominate it and win the game. Yes, we could dominate it and use other areas to win the game. Or they could cancel each other out. And I think they'll cancel each other out. And I think there's so many fine margins. There are so many fine margins in this game. We'll come back to that in a minute, because obviously I want you to be able to see your live comments on the screen as well. But I think there's so many fine margins in this game, and it's massively intriguing. I can't wait for it. I'm really excited about it. It is very, very interesting. But also, what I wanted to say is as well, this is quite interesting. I wonder what you like to think about this. Forest Dweller makes a good point though. How are we going to counter attack with Fellaini? Really, we'll come back to that, and we'll use the graphic as to how I think United need to attack. But ultimately, it's what I've already said. It's down the flanks. That's where Manchester United have got to attack. We can't go through the middle. You've got Fellaini, Matic, Herrera. It's going to be very difficult to go through the middle, because if you look at us from an attacking side, Fellaini, Matic, Herrera, Lukaku, where is the flair there? There isn't. It's physical, but it's not flair. The flair in United's team is Young and Valencia, Martial and probably Lingard or Mata if he did risk. Well, I don't think Mata would be a risk, but the flanks are where we got to do it, and the dead ball. And we're going to have to work very, very hard to do it. But interestingly, I think Noel Gallagher is doing some sort of punditry or build-up for the Manchester City game with Gary Neville and I think Jamie Carragher. I mean, this is just brilliant. I mean, I think Manchester City fans are getting more wound up than we are. I mean, I'm purposely tweeting stuff out quite regularly just because they keep biting on it all the time, which means that a lot of what we're saying is probably true, but this is definitely true. If Manchester City have to wheel out a 90s pop star to talk about a Manchester derby, and we could pick anybody. There's about 30 legends we could pick easily. We've picked Gary Neville. They've picked Noel Gallagher. I mean, it was him or Curly Watts, you know, or Little and Large, if anyone remembers them. They're big Man City fans as well. Because they haven't got anybody. They've basically bought success so recently. They haven't actually got any pundits that can come on with any credibility that's ever done anything. I mean, there's a lot of people like, you know, Sean Goat is there putting his hand up, but he can only tell you about scoring goals against Stockport County in the Autoglass Trophy. They've got nothing. So they're having to wheel out Noel Gallagher, who, what he knows about football is, I don't know. But anyway, Noel Gallagher was asked about combined 11s and what players he would take from Manchester United. Marcus Rashford can sit on our bench, he said, and David De Gea can sit on our bench. I mean, Noel, with all due respect, I like a lot of your songs, but just stick to listening to old Beatles songs and nicking the riffs and writing the different lyrics to it and changing it a little bit, because you've made a lot of money out of that. You're not going to make a lot of money out of talking about football because, one, you're totally wrong who you've picked anyway, and two, David De Gea is the best goalkeeper in the world. Why is he not in your goal? But Marcus Rashford at the moment is probably not good enough to be in our... Well, he isn't good enough to be in our starting 11. That's what you're on about. Which brings me to my point, and if we have got Man City fans on tonight, fantastic. If you... Nicholas has never heard of Noel Gallagher, don't worry. I do like Lindelof Kim. I'll come to that in a minute. But I'm going to say this in all seriousness. If you're asking me, and people will have done combined 11s, and I said it on Twitter the other day, I'm not doing a combined 11 for Manchester City versus Manchester United because it is a total and utter domination from Manchester United. De Gea's in goal. Valencia's better than Kyle Walker, but it's close. Ian Shapiro's made a contribution. He says 4-4-2, Rashford and Martial on the wings, Lindelof with Matic and Zlatan, Lukaku up front. Oh, mate, thanks for the contribution, but we get stuffed. We can't go 4-4-2 with 2 up front and 2 wingers. We would get absolutely annihilated. I'd love to see it happen. And I like the idea, but even my optimism, I'm not that blind. We would get killed in the midfield if we played 2 up front and 2 wingers. They'd just go through. They'd go through the middle of us like all Bran through. No, you know what I mean. But my combined Manchester United Manchester City 11 is this. It's De Gea in goal. Let's move on. Straight obvious. Ashley Young's definitely left back because they're playing Fabian Delph there at the moment and Mendy's not fit, so it's definitely Ashley Young, so that's 2 for us. Right back is definitely Valencia. Kyle Walker's good, but Valencia's better, so that's 3. Centre backs, Company, Otamendi against... I don't think... I mean, Company, I would take Company, to be fair. I would take Company out of everybody, but I wouldn't put Otamendi ahead of Rojo or Smalling, so... Take your pick, Company and one of our centre-backs. So out of the back 5, it's 4 to Manchester United, 1 to Manchester City. Moving into the midfield, Fernandinho or Matic, it's Matic. We're going to go for a midfield 3. De Bruyne has got to be in there, but it would be Pogba over Silva every day of the week. So that's another 1 from the 3 midfield 3. Up front, I would... So you've got Sane, Sterling, Martial, Lingard, Lukaku, Aguero. Okay. I would take Martial over Sterling, and I would put Sane on the right, and I would put Aguero up front over Lukaku. So the only players I would take from Manchester City in a combined 11 would be Company as a centre back, De Bruyne in the midfield, Sane as a winger, and Aguero up front. So 4 to our 7, which are De Gea, Valencia, Young, one of our centre backs to play with Company because they're both better than him. Otamendi and Stones is injured, and they're better than him anyway. Matic and Pogba in the midfield, and then Martial. So 7 to their 4. And I don't think that's even up for debate. Of course, you'll get Theon Curtin says Matic, Pogba and Kevin De Bruyne are my guide. Look, David Silva's a very good player, but you're not going to get... You can't play Silva, Pogba and De Bruyne, which is probably what I would do. You've got to have a real holding midfielder. Matic is better than Fernandinho, and De Bruyne I would definitely pick, but I wouldn't drop Pogba for Silva. It's got to be Pogba. United, this is the progression that Mourinho's bringing in. It's the, when you look at combined 11s, United, when everything's ticking, and let's not forget, United's bad form occurred when we didn't have Pogba, which is what makes Sunday worrying. But when we've got our best team, when we have got Pogba and everybody's fit, and you look at what we did up until Pogba's injury in September I think it was September and August, wasn't it? And when he came back and we just took 12 points, 6 points away to Watford and Arsenal, which not many people are going to get points from either of those away from home. It shows you how good United are when we've got everybody. So I find it funny because people will go, oh, you've only got 4 City players against, and 7 United players in a combined 11, but you're 8 points behind us. Look at where those 8 points were lost. The vast majority of those 8 points were lost in October when we weren't playing our best team. 2 points were dropped away to Stoke, which we shouldn't have dropped. Phil Jones dropped those. And that's the difference. It's very, very close between Manchester United and Manchester City. Just we lost our biggest and most important player. And unfortunately, he's not going to play at the weekend. But, and as for the manager, Mourinho every day of the week, look, who's the better manager, Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho? You've got Kunchelskis and Cantona coming out and saying, I'd love to have Guardiola over Mourinho. Fine. Everyone's got their right to an opinion. It's a bit of a shame when you've been paid by this club and you're meant to have an affiliation with this club that you undermine the current manager. I think that's a bit classless, to be honest. Wait till he's gone. But if you want to know who's the better manager out of Mourinho and Pep, and if you want to judge it on the way teams play, that's fine. But the reality is there is no debate that Jose Mourinho is the better manager. Pep Guardiola is a silver spoon manager, and people can say, oh, stop it, Mark, you just don't like Pep. But what I do like is facts. What I do like is evidence. Undisputable evidence that Pep Guardiola is basically a Spanish Brendan Rodgers who's been given massive jobs and massive amounts of money. Now people say, well, Brendan Rodgers, that sounds unfair. But look at what Brendan Rodgers is doing at Celtic in an uncompetitive league with total domination in that league with the checkbook and the superior players. Celtic look like a good team. Now, Pep Guardiola's had that throughout his career. He went to Barcelona. He inherited the best team I've seen in my life, Barcelona, with Messi and everyone like that. Anybody could have won that title, and he won it, and he won a couple of Champions League. He then went to Bayern Munich, who just won every single trophy, including the Champions League. Again, one-horse race in that league. Open checkbook. Couldn't win the Champions League. Failed, but did win the league. Comes to Manchester City. Biggest budget in the Premier League. Open checkbook again. Failed last season. Doing well this year. Good manager. Good philosophy. I think he hasn't got a plan B. But he's never had to graft for it. I think if you put Pep Guardiola in charge of Arsenal, I don't think they'd be anywhere near challenging for the title. I think if you put Mourinho in charge of Arsenal, they would. And that, for me, is why Mourinho's better than Guardiola. It's a bit like why Ronaldo's better than Messi. I'm developing this now. Ronaldo's better than Messi for me because I prefer that sort of player. But Ronaldo's better than Messi for me anyway, because when they have retired, I'm sure a lot of you will say Messi was the better footballer. And I can accept that. I can accept Messi, and I can also accept that Pep's team play the better football than Mourinho. But who's the better manager is the person who has achieved more in different circumstances without a silver spoon in their mouth. Messi is another silver spoon player. He's spent his whole career at Barcelona surrounded by great players in the same league, which is effectively a bit of a pub league beyond 2 or 3 teams. He plays for Argentina, again surrounded by great players. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who started off in the Portuguese league, very, very young, came to Manchester United, experienced the Premier League, which is the Premier League is fast-paced and it is very physical, totally and utterly destroyed the Premier League. Then he went to Real Madrid and destroyed that. He's done it in 2 different leagues. He also plays for a national team that's not anywhere near as good as Argentina, and he's excelled for that as well. And I think that Ronaldo-Messi thing is very similar to the Mourinho-Guardiola thing. And of course people will say it's Guardiola and Messi and, that's your opinion. But factually, I think the other two have achieved a lot more in harder circumstances. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, massively excited about it. Let's just go back to Pillskid says, you said United would have 6 if not more in a combined 11, but Pep has the best players. You say United have better players, but Pep just has the best. I've never said that Manchester City have got the better players. I've said that he's spent a lot of money and he's picked the players that he wants. But if you're asking me, is Kyle Walker a better right back than Valencia? No. If you're asking me if Fernandinho is better than Matic? No. Are you asking me, is Otamendi better than Smalling or Rojo? Or no. Is De Gea Ederson better than De Gea? No. Is Sterling better than Martial? No. You know, is Silva better than Pogba? No. It's 7-4. It's 7-4, and I'd argue that with anybody. I don't even need to do the banter. But coming back to how the question we had a bit ago, and I'm going to go through some of your comments now. Look, I make no apologies about my opinion on Ronaldo. I know a lot of people absolutely live up Messi's bottom and they can't move away from the fact that Messi's the GOAT and all that. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. But the reality is Messi is like Pep Guardiola. He hides in a league where I think for his reputation and his legacy, it's such a shame that Messi has not played for anybody else other than Barcelona. It really is, because that La Liga is a pub league beyond 3 or 4 teams. I'd love to have seen Messi, you know, I'd like to see Messi go to Serie A. That's a very competitive league. But realistically, the Premier League, the money's there. It would have been nice to see him play in the Premier League just to prove it. And I think he could have come and proved it. I'm not one of those people around Messi who thinks he wouldn't be able to do it on a cold night in Stoke. But the reality is Ronaldo did do it there. And he's done it in La Liga. And I just think Messi, it would have been nice to see him away from Barcelona. Because he's always going to be that, you know, fantastic player. But we will never know. We'll never know. Whereas with Ronaldo, we do know. He killed the Premier League and then he killed La Liga. But we're talking about Manchester City versus Manchester United and how this can, how we can do it. And it was a very good point. I forget who said it, but they were like, with this triangle here, if it is that triangle, how the hell are we going to get the ball to them? And it's a very good point. You know, this is where we went wrong without Pogba before. Obviously, we had Mkhitaryan playing in that Fellaini role. I think that number 10 or whatever you want to call it has got to be a midfielder. I think it's got to be somebody who is strong. And that's why I would put Fellaini in there with Matic and Herrera behind him. But if you do play that 3, we are never ever going to be finding those 3. And we struggled with that in October. And we couldn't score goals. Lukaku was starved of chances. And that will happen on Sunday, sorry. With Matic, Herrera and Fellaini in the midfield, if that's the way we go. Which I think we've got to go because we've got to be combative and physical. We will struggle to create chances through the middle. So we do it down the flanks. That's where Manchester United have got to use the flanks. And we've got to force De Bruyne, and we've got to force Silva over, and we've got to force Fernandinho over. Because they won't want to go wide. Manchester City will want to go through the middle in little triangles. It's like a Death Star. That's what they will want to do. And our midfield 3 have got to stop that happening. But when they stop it happening, instead of trying to do things like this, which is just not going to work, when we stop it happening, we've got to go there, and he's got to go there, and he's going to hold it up, and he's going to go on there. And the same with Valencia. Ball in there, and on you go. And that is where Manchester United cause problems. If we can work the flanks and get the ball into these positions and these positions, he's going to be in the box. He's going to be in the box. Maybe he might go. I don't think he will. I think those two have got to be disciplined. But Fellaini can get into the box. And if we put decent ball in there, that's how Manchester United win this game. That's how United create chances. At Old Trafford is down the flanks. Manchester United have got to use the flanks to win this game. I totally agree with that comment. I think it was spot on. How are we going to work through the middle with those 3 players? Because it won't work. We've got to use the flanks. Young and Valencia, massively important. Massively, massively important. I've spelt Fernandinho wrong. Look, I don't like Man City. I don't really care. Hey Mark, is Griezmann a done deal to Barcelona, says Mike D. I don't know. I expect him to sign for Manchester United, but in the context of the derby, I don't know. Michael Scofield says their right hand side seems like a good side to exploit. Yes. Well, I think our right hand side, their left hand side, is, you know, I don't rate Delph against Lingard. Again, I think it'll be a 50-50 battle. But if we had like I think if we had Rashford there, if we were brave enough to do that, he could cause some problems. Martial against Walker is going to be, again, very, very difficult. But Young, Sterling, I think Young, that's a potential. I mean, the great thing about this game is, look, the great thing about this game is when you look at all those matchups, can you honestly say somebody who's going to come out on top? Hello? Yeah. When you look at the battles on that pitch, I mean, the only one where I can say without doubt we will win that battle is De Gea is a better goalkeeper than Ederson. But Young and Sterling, it's a battle. Valencia and Sane, it's a battle. I think the Lukaku against Kompany and Otamendi, and Aguero against Rojo and Smalling, again, who's going to come out on top? It's a battle. Matic, De Bruyne, it's a battle. Herrera, Silva, it's a battle. Fellaini against Fernandinho, it's a battle. You know, I think all around the pitch, if they go like that, it's 50-50 battles. And, you know, if you win more 50-50s, you're going to win the game. If they win more, they're going to win the game. If it stays 50-50, it could be a draw. It is massively intriguing. Of course, the banter's there. Of course, we've got to give it. And as I said earlier on, when I was reacting to Jose Mourinho's press conference, I'll rather die being cocky and brave than die being a coward. And by die, I mean, like, if we lose on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of stick coming our way as Manchester United fans. But, you know, fortune favours the brave, and as fans, we need to win this game. And I believe we can do it. But I'm not naive to the fact that if we lose too many of the battles on that pitch, we might lose this game. So the challenge is there for Manchester United, and I certainly think we can do it. But we've got to use the flank for me. That's where it's all about. Mike Rollins says, I hope Rojo doesn't give a penalty. Look, I've had people saying, I've had people saying you're already using the referee as an excuse. I've been saying all week, get on social media if you're on it and start giving Michael Oliver a load of pressure, because I think he's got a penalty in him for Man City. I do. I predict that, and that's not making excuses, because he's done it before. And I think the way Manchester City play and the way they throw themselves around in the box, and to be fair, the way they move the ball around quickly, there might be a stray foot from Rojo in there. And if he leaves a stray foot, whether there's contact or not, Manchester City will go down, and I think Oliver will give a penalty. So we've got to be very, very careful about that, which is why I don't agree with Carragher. I don't think we can sit back. And as I was saying at the start of the video, if we sit back and give them the ball, you're inviting pressure around our box, one mistimed tackle or one dive, and it's a penalty, and all the good work's undone. But the biggest factor is, if we do sit back and try and contain them, we'll lose what we've got in the first couple of minutes. That first couple of minutes, when it kicks off, the Old Trafford crowd is going to roar. You've got to keep it. You've got to fuel that crowd. It's like a fire. You've got to keep throwing things on there. Keep it burning. Keep it roaring. And that's what the players have got to do at the weekend. Whether it's a tackle or whatever, or a good run down the wing, it's passion. And I think that's another way that we can win it. Mourinho is raw passion when he lets himself go. Pep Guardiola, well, we've seen what Pep's like. He's like, when he lets himself go, he's a spoilt child, like what he did with Nathan Redmond. But he tries to be calm and reserved, whereas Mourinho can be, and I don't think he's done it enough at United, and I really hope we see it on Sunday. He's passion. Our players are more passion than ability. A lot of our players are more passion than ability. You look at people like, you know, Silva, De Bruyne. They're talented players, but do they bleed light blue? No. People like Fellaini, you know, I'll give the lad credit. People like Fellaini, does he bleed red? Well, of course he does. He's a human being. But I think when he puts the United shirt on, he does. You know, he is passionate, and I think if you make Sunday about passion and pride, then will City players wilt under that pressure of a passionate hotbed environment? And I think a lot of a lot of footballers, in fairness, are mercenaries, and people take mercenary as a bad thing. Football is a mercenary sport now. That, you know, these people are earning hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, and you know, the biggest bidder gets the players. I don't think, you know, I pretty much guarantee you Sergio Aguero, when he was back in Argentina growing up, he wasn't, you know, cracking onto Al Teletext to see what had happened what the latest score down Main Road was. In fact, English clubs, he probably only ever heard of Manchester United or Liverpool. So, you know, these players are at these clubs because, yes, it's a good club to go to because their profile's going up. But the real thing is, we got a lot of money, and we're going to bring good players here. And I fear, I've always said about Man City, this bubble will burst. It's when it bursts, and it's how big the gap is when it bursts. We could burst that bubble on Sunday, and if they would, you know, 1-0 would be humiliating to Man City. We've only got to beat them. 1-0 would humiliate them. 4 or 5-0 would obviously be dreamland. It's not going to happen. But 1-0 would humiliate Pep, and it would make a lot of their players think, "Woof, we've been schooled there." And I think Man City have always, like when they've won titles, they've never won back-to-back titles. And Sir Alex Ferguson always used to say, back-to-back titles is the hardest thing. Retaining the title is harder than winning it. And Manchester City never retain it. And I think that's because they do the effort, but they haven't got the backbone, the desire to go and to fight for it again. Because I think a lot of them are just at the club for money, which a lot of players are at lots of clubs for money. There'll be players at United who are there for the money. We'd hope that there aren't, but there are. But I think we've got more players who, you know, are passionate, and I think that's where we can win this game. So I really hope we don't sit back. And you know what? If going back to what I was on about there, if we do use the flanks, if we do use these flanks to get the crowd going, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. In our psyche as Manchester United fans, no matter how far you go back, whether you've been supporting United for 5 years and you're in your late teens, or you know however long you've supported them, you can be 80s, 70s, 60s, noughties, 90s, whatever. The successful Manchester United sides, or the sides that United have played, have predominantly been wings. That's where we do it, and that is in our psyche. That is in our blood as Manchester United fans. So the easiest way to get Manchester United, especially Old Trafford crowds, going is to do something passionate down the wing. A good run, a good bit of play, a decent cross. They'll be up for it. And it coincides perfectly with this game because that's where we've got to do it. Because we can't go down the middle. You know, Fellaini can't be Pogba. He can't do it. But Fellaini can knock a ball out to the wide. And then Fellaini can make his run into the box. And these two can work their stuff to get the crosses in. And that's how United will do it. And the great thing is, wing play, if Valencia bombs on, Lingard loses it and they go down the left, yeah, Sane is going to be a threat. But if you lose it in the middle, you've got De Bruyne or Silva running at you. They've got options either side. If you've got Sane running at you down the left-hand side, he can't go left, he can only go right. So the wing play, I'll be surprised if Mourinho doesn't see it that way as well. The wings are where we can do it, but also the wings are where we can take some risks, because if you lose that or attacks break down, there's only one way for a winger to go. They've got to come inside. They can't go out of play. And the risk is less down the wings than it is through the middle, especially against a team like Manchester City. So I could talk to you for hours about this game, and I think, you know, I enjoy the tactical side of things. And to be honest, when it kicks off at the weekend, I'm not going to be thinking too much about tactics at all. Not at all. I think I'll just be watching the game like everybody else, really, you know, passionate about it. But Superbru. For those who don't know what Superbru is, it is a link in the video description. It is a free Premier League predictor game where you can win great prizes. But we do have a United Stand League, and if you sign up through the link in the video description, it will automatically put you into the United Stand League. And let me just go to where I need to be. So every week you've just got to pick your scores. So West Ham is the lunchtime kickoff. I think that will be 2-0 to Chelsea. So you go through, you pick all your scores. If you get 6 scores right, you win a team jersey of your choice. If you get 7, you get 1,000. 8, 2,500. 9, 5,000. 10 out of 10, you get £20,000. I'll give you £20,000 if you do that. Fair play if you do. But by entering the league, you will automatically get into the United Stand League. And as you can see, it's very competitive, but don't worry, it doesn't matter when you sign up, because it will average out your score anyway each week, so it doesn't matter when you sign up. But in relation to the United Stand League at the moment, we've got 2,764 people in it, and good old Goldbridge is in 16th place. Look, I've been in the top 20th all season, and top 20 all season. And another great thing that I really like is the where is it? It's here. Each week bit like the Tour de France, where you get the yellow jersey, you get a yellow cap. So let's announce our yellow cap winner for this week. As you can see, you have to go down a bit, but I'm sure I have won it. Goldbridge, round 12. I won it. Spartan Red won it last week. Well done to Spartan Red. He won it with 18. 18. And I think that's the biggest score of the week. Biggest score anybody's ever had. 18. 16.5 for Manchester 311. 15.5. That was a good one from that lad Goldbridge. But 18. He won the yellow cap. So he's the yellow cap holder for the week. Link is in the video description. Get yourself signed up. It's a good bit of fun. You can win a jersey. It's free to do it. And you can also have a bit of banter with the United stand. And we do cover it every week on the playoff, on the preview as well. So link in the video description for Superbru. Get on that. Finally, Giuliano makes a good point. The game will be cancelled. Now, I live in the Midlands. It was forecast to snow heavy all day. It was bright and cold. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. So you cannot trust the British weather forecasts when it comes to snow. It is forecast to be heavy snow in the Midlands on Sunday. But in relation to Manchester, I can tell you now that as things stand, on Sunday, it is forecast for heavy snow until midday and then light slow through the afternoon. This game could get cancelled. If it gets cancelled, Pogba will be back when we play them again, which I think is going to be really, really interesting. So keep your eye on that. We've got shows for you all weekend, by the way. We'll be back live tomorrow. Got a really good show for you tomorrow. Keep your eye out for that. We will be live at 8 o'clock as usual, but I think I'm going to do a video in the day, probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. Thanks, everybody. I think it's interesting. I think the snow's interesting. I'm not bothered if it gets cancelled. I'm not. And people, you know, Man City fans will go, "Oh, you're scared. You want the snow." I want the game. I'm very excited about the game, and for the reasons said, I think there's so many battles. Bring it on. But if it gets cancelled because it snows, I'll be like, it's disappointing because there's no game this weekend. But from a Manchester United point of view, we're still 8 points behind City, obviously, but we've still got to play them. We're still going to be playing them at Old Trafford, and they're highly likely to have Pogba back or a January transfer window, which will make us even stronger. So, look, I hope the game happens, but if it doesn't, I wouldn't be crying about it. We'll have to wait and see. Max says City will what Manchester City fans will do if it gets called off for snow. They'll try and rip the mick out of us lot for saying, you wanted it to snow, you were praying for snow because you were scared of us. I'm not scared of you, bring it on. I want to play you on Sunday, but if it does get snowed off, it's out of our hands, and Pogba will play in the next game, or we'll have some new signings. Be interesting. Anyway, link in the video description for Superbru. Free to play. Get yourself on there, Predict League. Get yourself in. You'll automatically be put into the United Stand League. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I certainly have. I liked talking about all the tactics. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with the snow. But I'll be back tomorrow. Snow won't stop the United Stand. Thanks, everybody. TC Singh says I'm going to be praying for snow for the next 2 days. If it got cancelled, Modern Mexican, it wouldn't. I don't think we'd play it again until. I don't know. I don't know how it works. It wouldn't happen before. Look, if it got rearranged, it wouldn't be done midweek because we've got Bournemouth on Wednesday. So, and it couldn't be done at the weekend. So basically, Pogba would be back. The flip side of that coin is that Pogba wouldn't be able to play against Leicester on the 23rd. So, you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Thanks, everyone. Speak to you all very soon. Enjoy your evening, and thanks everyone for watching. Do drop a like on the video. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes. And I'm really excited about this game. I'll see you all tomorrow. There'll be a video going up in the morning, and at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I think we're going to do a call-in for you lot. I think that'll work well on the eve of our biggest game of the season. Thanks for watching. The tears from City fans if it snows, I tell you, they're going to go mad.